In this recording, we will be looking at the various ways of searching for availability within SmartPoint. Searching for availability is easy when using Travelport SmartPoint. It is possible to search for availability using standard Galileo entries, calendar search, or the Air Availability fill-in format from the search option in the menu. These last two options can also be accessed via the Quick Commands option by clicking on the hash icon to the right of the screen. You can then type in A, for example, and a list of all subjects that begin with that letter, including air availability, will appear. SmartPoint's availability responses come from the direct carrier link and automatically populate the availability screen with last seat availability for over 300 participating airlines. It is not necessary to access the carrier inside link display to validate last seat availability before selling. However, this can still be done if you wish to display a specific carrier. SmartPoint shows all classes of service offered in a single expanded display, so there is no need to remember complicated follow-up entries. Let's take a closer look at an availability response, this time from London to Sydney, and investigate what the highlighted areas indicate. One of the major benefits of using SmartPoint is that it greatly reduces the number of keystrokes required for making bookings, and because items are clickable, what can sometimes be lengthy and complicated follow-up entries are now no longer required. Anything white is static information with no interactive capability. In this instance, you can see that after the destination there is a number. This indicates that the flight arrives one day after the initial departure day. The 2 would indicate that arrival is 2 days later. This is also indicated by the star or hash symbols between the departure and arrival times. Hash meaning final flight arrives 1 day after original departure, star 2 days after original departure. When we hover the mouse over blue font items, this performs decode. You can also click to expand. The first decodable item is airports. When you hover the mouse over the airport code, you can see the city. By clicking on it, you can see the airport name. A 1 between the departure and arrival points would indicate that the flight stopped somewhere. For more information, click on the 1. You are now able to see where the flight stops, as well as the flying time between each of the departure and arrival points. Hovering the mouse over or clicking on the carrier code allows you to decode this. Hovering the mouse or clicking on the flight number will give you the terminal information and total elapsed flying time. When flights have the @ symbol in front of them, this indicates that the flight is a code share. By hovering the mouse over the symbol, then see which airline will be operating the flight. Hovering the mouse over the equipment code will tell you the aircraft type. Dates and number of passengers can be changed after an initial availability is performed via the Availability Modifier toolbar. This allows for quick access to the same availability request for the prior or following day. You can also select the number of passengers prior to selling the flight. Up to 9 can be selected. To minimize or expand this, click on the calendar icon on the right. The More Flights link returns more air availability. Alt and M can be entered if you prefer using keyboard entries. Please note that clicking on More Flights link does not remove the original 16 flight options. Scrolling up and down will view all availability options that have been displayed. Let's look at another availability display, this time from Karachi to Delhi. Seat availability is also color-coded to enable easier distinction between available seats shown here in green, waitlist closed shown here in grey. It is possible to waitlist classes with a 0 indicator, or seats on request or available to waitlist, which are shown in orange. SmartPoint enables you to search for outbound and return flights in a single transaction. In response to such a request, outbound and return availability displays are shown using the upper and lower terminal partitions. Outbound and return availability is displayed from a single entry using ++. If you require the same routing in reverse for the return, there is no need to add the routing after the ++, just add the return date. This will display the availability for the 10th of February from Barcelona to Madrid on the upper partition, and the availability for the 15th of February from Madrid to Barcelona on the lower partition. Each portion has the previous and next day date choices and number of passengers. As the user selects the number of passengers on the outbound, the return alters accordingly. If you wish to display a specific carrier on both the outbound and return sectors, you would need to add this to each leg. If you were only to add this to the very end of the entry, it would only search for the specific carrier on the return. Another way of searching for availability is by using the Air Availability Search option via Search from the toolbar. A fill-in format will be presented, which is simply completed with the search criteria. It will be automatically pre-populated with whatever was the last city pair searched for. This is overtyped with your new criteria. Round-trip or one-way routings would be specified here. You can select either city codes or the city name. The required option will appear in the bottom of the list. Hit Enter to populate the fill-in box. To enter dates, either overtype or use the calendar to select dates. Preferred departure times can either be chosen from the time selection options or manually typed in. Specific carriers can be selected by typing in either the carrier code or carrier name. Again, the required option will appear at the bottom of the list. Hit Enter to select. It is also possible to specify the number of passengers and the preferred booking class code. The results returned will show only the booking class code requested. There's another option for searching for availability via the calendar, which is accessed through the Tools option of the toolbar. Once calendar has been selected, you can then scroll down to see other months. There is an option that can be ticked to have the calendar open on startup, so that when you log on, the calendar automatically appears. You can also expand the calendar by clicking on the edge of the calendar and dragging, so that you can see multiple months without the need to scroll. Click on the required outbound date. If a return availability is also required, click on the relevant date. The duration of the trip will be shown on the calendar. Right-hand click to access the context-sensitive menu. There are two relevant options to choose from, either availability or last air. By choosing availability, the fill-in format is presented, with the dates pre-populated. The routing will pre-populate with whatever the last routing searched for was. This can then be overtyped with the city name or code that is now required. Preferred departure times can also be added. As well as the required airline. Number of passengers can be selected, We then click on Search. If what is required is to look at different dates for the same last routing you searched for, select Calendar, select your new dates, right-hand click and select the Last Air option. This will apply the new date range to that same routing and present the relevant availability display. A point to note here is that if the last routing looked at was a one-way and a date range has now been selected, the results will not present the return availability. This will only happen if the last availability looked at was a return trip. The air availability and calendar options can also be accessed by clicking on Quick Commands.